Hello class! Today we are going to have an extra special lesson. We are going to assemble DC Universe Classics Wave 12, woo, Darkseid. Been totally looking forward to this. I'm going to gush about how much I like Darkseid in a few minutes, and we're going to put him together and we're going to see how awesome this figure is going to be. I mean, I know I've pretty much already said what I think the character or the figure is going to be like, just because I've got high expectations for this one, I gotta say. But he's in pieces right now, and what we're going to do first is I do want to talk about the wave a little bit, just because I've got all the figures here, and I do kind of like doing that. So these are the figures required to build Darkseid, with one exception, that dude in the middle, Darkseid. But we have Spectre, Eclipso, Iron from the Middlemen, Darkseid, Copperhead, Mary Batson. Whoa, I just kind of looked at him and he fell down. And Dr. Midnight. Now really, to me, for the most part, this entire wave largely to me was characters that, I don't know, it's kind of like the second, third stringer characters, really. I don't know what to say about it. To me, most of them are figures I wouldn't have bought otherwise. There's just no good reason to own, except you want to build Darkseid over here. Spectre is not bad. I don't know much about Spectre, but I thought he was alright. But most of the rest of them I hadn't heard of, or I knew very little about, or I just really don't care. Even my limited knowledge of the DC Universe, most of it comes from Justice League and watching Batman and some of Superman, because I'm not a big Superman fan. Even a lot of these characters we don't see until Justice League, and then some of them, like Darkseid here, very, very briefly, like Eclipso, I didn't realize it was a legitimate character, same with Darkseid, until I saw they had figures. So, again, I guess it's kind of more of the niche thing. I'm sure there are people who like Darkseid, and there are people who like the Metalmen, so they like Iron. But for the most part, to me, it's just a wave of figures of characters, sorry, that really, who gives a shit about most of them? I know, that's just my opinion, and I'm sure there's people who disagree with me, and that's fine. But in terms of the figures themselves, some of them, you know, like any wave, there's some really good ones and some meh, and then some throwaway ones. And for the wave, I have to say, Darkseid is a pretty good figure. I don't know too much or care too much about the figure, and when we first reviewed him, I said he was on Justice League for like 5 minutes and then got vaped. And then when I was looking up Darkseid on Wikipedia before I did this, he gets vaped by Darkseid in the comics too at one point. If you don't believe me, look it up. Go look on Wiki. Check Darkseid on Wiki and you'll see that he gets vaped, or Darkseid gets vaped by Darkseid. But for figures that are good, he's pretty good. I have to say Copperhead is a major, major surprise there, and yes, he has basically been in that pose since I filmed the review for him. And he's probably never going to leave that Viagra worked for me pose, because it's just awesome. His victory look is just great. He looks just overly excited for no really good reason. The Spectre isn't a bad figure over here on this side. A lot of kind of the generic DC, UC figures in him, but he's got a couple of different things about his mold that are different. Anyways, and so it's not bad. Plus, what I know of the character I do like. Eclipso, nah, is to me alright. Iron is nah, alright. Dr. Midnight is alright. And Mary Batson's a total waste of plastic, in my opinion. Just a total throwaway figure. Not worth getting, except that you want the piece of Darkseid. So all in all, the wave to me is not exceptional. A couple of bright spots. I think our friend Copperhead over here is the brightest spot. And it's not because I'm a big fan of the character, I just think the figure is excellent. So, I think what we need to do now is we have to actually build Darkseid. So, we're going to grab all the parts here. And I got this thing over there. And let's see, how are we going to do this? We're going to start by taking, I think, the lower torso. And I'm going to see if I can stick a couple legs on him. I got to figure out which foot is which first. Ooh, look at that. Darkseid has little boots, too. Or little heels on his boots. That's just cute. I'm going to say this side should be over here. Now, the one thing I should point out, actually, before I go too much further, and I think I mentioned it before, is that the leg joints on Darkseid here are different. The hip joints are different than what seems to be the standard for the DCUC figures, and I don't know why it is. It's on a ball joint that's similar to the shoulders, whereas most of them, if we look at maybe Eclipso here, it's that kind of double joint. So I'm wondering why they decided to do something different with Darkseid. I'm never going to be able to put him back now without knocking all the rest of them down. Oh, maybe. Okay, I'm a liar. He'll fall down eventually, I'm sure of it. At any rate, I don't know why that is, but they're like the shoulder joints. Is that good or bad? You know what? Who can say? I'm not going to pass judgment on that too much, I don't think. So, since I think the legs are going to have to sit like that, because they look kind of the same to me. Anyways, let's see if we can reef these in there. There we got one. And then we can put on the other one. Oh, there we go. Bend those down. I'm just worried I'm going to have them backwards, but I think we got that right. So we got the center, or the bottom part for him in place there. And we're going to take his arms, and we're going to pop them into place. There we go. I'm sure that little snapping sound means we've got it in there securely. Whoops, that one didn't snap. So we'll try that again. There we go. And then we can take his head. Now his head again, I guess it depends on the figure, but some of them I've seen the peg being on the neck and then the hole being in the head to put on. And when I first saw this one, I can't remember, there's another figure that does it, I think, similarly. I was just really surprised that the peg was actually in the head itself, and I'm wondering what the design decision was for that. I know it doesn't really matter, I suppose. It's just something I'm curious about. But anyways, you can grab the head, and I'm pretty sure it's in there, but I'm pretty sure we can reef it on better. Ooh, let's try that again. Oh, I hope that goes on more solid than that, because that's pretty. It's got to. I can see it goes in a little bit deeper. Let's try this one more time. So, there we go. That seems like, it always worries you a little bit when the damn thing snaps, but there, I think that goes in. And I noticed that there's no upward or downward movement there. At any rate, that's just because he just kind of stands there with his arms behind his back and says cool things. Anyways, so now we can take the lower half and we can attach it. Come on. See if we can put that in there. Oh man, is that ever going to be tough? Once that goes in, it ain't ever coming back out. Which I guess is a good thing. I think I'd be better at this by now. I'm still not convinced it's done, but oh. There we have him. Darkseid. Whoa, except he's really big and now my camera is not where it needs to be. So, there we go. We have Darkseid. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move some of these other figures out of the way so I can move him back a little bit and readjust my camera. And you two decide before toy version of Darkseid vapes you as well, which you deserve. Anyways, so there we have him. Now, in terms of his color scheme, I really like his, or maybe we'll start off, well, we'll talk about his color since I started there. The gray is nice. That's more or less what I expect with the black kind of, I don't know if they're supposed to be veins or his skin is supposed to be like rock, but that looks pretty good. And, you know, we've got the face, which is gray, and we've got the red eyes there, which we can see, which means he's a boomer. Yeah, that's right, I said a boomer. Let's see if you know what I'm talking about. Now, the only thing in terms of the color scheme that I'm not terribly fond of, we'll talk about that in a second, is the blue. Now, I know I've seen images of other figures where he's that kind of light blue, and I've seen just other things where he's that kind of light blue color, maybe sometimes in the comic books. But I have to say, I like it better when he's kind of the darker shade of blue, like in Justice League, and I think that's how he looked in Superman. I can't remember Superman too well, because I didn't watch Superman a lot, and I still watch Justice League. So I'm more familiar with that kind of darker scheme, and that's why I like that darker bluish black better, because that's just what I'm used to, and that's how I associate the character. So I would have liked it better in a slightly darker color, but I do recognize that this is Darkseid. And as we just kind of look at him some more, one of the things I have to say, the reason I like Darkseid is, again, I'm not as sure about I'm pretty sure about Superman, but in Justice League, we'll say, because that's why I watch more, he's voiced by Michael Ironside. And Michael Ironside's voice is made out of 100% awesome. He's just awesome. I can't get over that. I know Michael Ironside best from Starship Troopers, and I don't know, I think actually he's the reason I have to admit it, I know it's a horrible movie and other people don't like it. I love watching Starship Troopers, and it's basically just because Michael Ironside is awesome, and it seems like he's always kind of the same character. I think we've seen him more recently in Terminator Salvation. He was in that, and actually he's in X-Men First Class, which is also really cool. but I know him best from Starship Troopers and, of course, as the voice of Darkseid. And it's just how I always associate the character now, whether I see him in the comic or anywhere else. I think of Michael Ironside's voice. Oh, you might also know Michael Ironside. He did the voice of the dude from Splinter Cell. Was it Sam Fisher? So if you're a gamer, you might know him from there too. Anyways, that's one of the reasons I love Darkseid. It's just because I love his voice, which was by Michael Ironside, which is actually why I'm ranting a little bit now. When Superman, Batman, Apocalypse, I think that's the right name of the movie, that one direct-to-DVD DC movie came out, I was greatly disappointed that Michael Ironside was not the voice of Darkseid in that movie. And actually, it just, I don't want to say it ruined the movie for me, but it was disappointing. I just, it's kind of like how there's certain people, how we just associate with certain voices of characters. Peter Cullen should be Optimus Prime. Mark Hamill should be the Joker, even though apparently that's not going to be happening anymore. He's retiring the voice. Who else have we mentioned? Kevin Conroy should be Batman in anything animated, and to me, Darkseid should always be voiced by Michael Ironside. It's just the way it should be. There should be a law that says as long as Michael Ironside is around, he should be doing the voice of Darkseid whenever they have him. Sorry, just ranting a little bit there. So, going back to the figure a little bit, we'll talk about his articulation, since we've got him here. So his head rotates all the way around, but there's really no up and down movement, and we can tell when we really press that in. His shoulders, that's going to be more or less standard DCU, I think. It's going to go all the way around. Oh, it's pretty tough. We're going to lift the arm up. It doesn't go up that far. Put that back down. It's going to rotate at the bicep, tricep, which is pretty typical. We're going to bend at the elbow, and his hands rotate a little bit higher than the wrist, but it's at the gauntlet, which makes sense. He's got that up and down point here in his torso, and while we can rotate a little bit, it's going to be hampered a little bit by, again, his tunic, which is that kind of soft plastic, but we can go all the way around there. And the only thing I don't like about this tunic is that it's a separate piece from the rest of his chest. I don't know how it's held on there exactly, but it doesn't sit on there too well, and we can see that it's a separate piece, and I gotta say, I'm not terribly fond of that. And it needs to be like tacked on with glue or something a little bit higher up, because this should not move on its own, because I believe this should be the same piece of that. On the back here, it looks like it's I want to say a mother box. It's a controller for apocalyptic technology, creates boom tubes. I'm guessing that's what that is supposed to be. I think Orion has one of those things too. I don't know. His legs, we can rotate around this way. Oh, come on, there we go. We can bend at the knee. And, interestingly enough, we can rotate here at the thigh as well, or a little bit at the calf, where his knee's attached, which a lot of DCU figures don't have that, which is, to me, kind of interesting. Then, of course, his boot, his ankle, we can bend there. So that's really about it for his articulation, which, you know what, it's pretty much standard for a DCU figure. Not too bad. Again, this thing at the waist is actually starting to annoy me a little bit. And the other thing we can do with this guy, I know I'm going on a little bit here, we can pop off this hand, goodbye, and we can take this other hand, which I don't know what this is. Is this the, oh, come on, there we go. Is this the DC version of the Infinity Gauntlet? Which I should point out, growing up, I was a Marvel kid. I bought Marvel comics, I knew more of the characters. For whatever reason, I've gotten into DCU figures, but if you've been watching any of the videos, you know I don't know who a lot of these characters really are. I never really followed them as a kid. So I'm really just kind of learning about them now. So I have no idea what this kind of weird golden suction cup hand is supposed to be, but I'm wondering if it's something about the anti-life equation or something like that. But you can also put that on there. I'm sure it means something to somebody. It doesn't really to me, because again, I just don't know. But I mean, it looks all right. Gives them you can help them with a different pose, and you can have their kind of reaching out thing, which he had in the pictures on the packaging. So, what would I say about this figure in the whole wave? You know what? I like this figure. If I was going to give it a grade, I'm going to give it a grade of, you know what, I'm going to say an A, and I'll tell you why it's not A+. One, I don't like the light blue on the figure. I would have liked it being a darker color. That really is just personal preference, because again, my version of Darkseid, which is the one that I associate with the most, or that I think of the most when I think of Darkseid, is from Justice League, where he's much darker blue. And the other thing that annoys me is this rubber piece. Now, I know we needed the rubber so that his legs can move a little bit, but maybe it's just this one, maybe, I don't know. It just doesn't sit too well on him, and it looks like it's going to come off. And the belt, if it was just the belt that moved, that wouldn't be bad. But the fact that the bottom part of the tunic, which is supposed to be one piece, clearly isn't, moves as well, does kind of annoy me. I just can't get past that. But it's still a nice figure. I do like him overall. Honestly, actually, I didn't talk about too much. The head sculpt on this dude is excellent. I can see that becoming an avatar for the Evil Prof channel, because it's just, it is pretty cool. Grab out my macro lens and take a picture of that and use that as my avatar, because that is pretty awesome. So, Darkseid gets an A. Is it worth building? Well, you know what? You have to like Darkseid, I think. I'm actually a little bit surprised it took as long as it did for Darkseid to get the DCUC treatment. But if you don't like Darkseid, probably not worth trying to put together the wave, because to me a lot of the characters in that wave, which we spoke about earlier, are kind of like, as much as I like the Copperhead figure, I don't think I would have bought it on its own if it wasn't for the fact I'm trying to build Darkseid. And a number of the other figures I would have never even dreamed of buying if it wasn't for the fact I want to build Darkseid. For me, the whole wave was about building Darkseid. So props to the guys at Mattel, because they went, you know what, people will buy the figures for Darkseid and probably for no other reason. That's just my opinion, but you know, good marketing there. But otherwise, if you don't really care about Darkseid, you know what, pass. If there's one or two figures you like, go for it, but otherwise you can probably pass if you don't like Darkseid. But as I said, I do like Darkseid. I'll proudly put him up with my other DCUC Build-A-Figure figures and display him, because I think he is pretty excellent. Not quite A+, because there's a couple of flaws, but otherwise a very good figure. So, I believe that is our lesson on DC Universe Classics Wave 12 Build-A-Figure Darkseid. Thank you very much, and class is dismissed.